Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is another video on the framework FOALTS. This is a framework that I've done a few videos on over the last couple years. It's kind of come quite a long way since my original videos, and I just thought I would give it another spin run and use some of these cool commands it has to kind of be a lot like Rails in the sense where you can like scaffold out stuff real quick. So let's do that. Okay, so first let's get started by spinning up a new project. And again, the value proposition with FOALTS is that it's really built around TypeScript. So if you really want sort of like first class use of TypeScript in your backend framework, and you want sort of like a Ruby on Rails Spring-like experience where like, you know, it's batteries included, sort of like this is that framework for JavaScript. Nest also occupies this space. I'll do a separate video of Nest. I've done videos on Nest before as well. But basically, I've already installed the CLI, so you would install the full CLI if you want to do that. And then this is the command to create a new app. So let me just run that command. Let me just make sure it's create app. Yep. So foal create app, and we'll just call this like dog API. Okay, and that's going to take a while. It's just going to generate a project. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep the default database settings. It defaults to SQLite. It uses an ORM called TypeORM. So if you want to configure Postgres or MySQL or some other database, you can read through the documentation. So I'm not going to focus too much on the database side of things. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take advantage of this API piece here. Okay, so essentially what you can do is we can run this command once our project is generated, and kind of like the Rails G scaffold command, this will generate everything I need for an API for a particular model. Okay, which is pretty cool. And again, you even have other options like auth if you want to add authentication, because FOALTS supports GWT authentication outside the box. Okay. Okay. Cool. So again, this is going to generate an entity, which is like your model. If you're familiar with like working with like Rails or Laravel, you have models. In this case, they're called entities. And then we have our classes filled with our routes, controllers, and it's going to kind of build all that stuff out for us. Okay, so we're just going to wait for a second for this to be done building. There it is. CD dog API, and let's just kind of show you the folder structure. So lots of configuration files because it's TypeScript, you know, files like, but a lot of this stuff you really don't need to touch. Really everything you need is in this config folder, which is all the configurations. So literally all these other configurations oftentimes feed from these configuration files, and default just is like your overall application defaults. But if you want to specify certain things for the development environment or production environment or a test environment, that's all there. And then there's source. Okay. And in the source folder, what we can do is we have our application. So here's all the stuff for our app. So this is just the index file that kind of kickstarts our app. And all it's really doing is pulling our main controller, our app controller, into here and generating a new server and then running it on port 3001. And that's pretty much all this does. So really everything kind of happens in here. So this app controller is what kind of wires all the pieces. So in this case, it has a property called subcontrollers that, well, lists all the different controllers that are currently attached to our application. This function here is what connects to the database. So this initiates a connection to the database. And again, we have controllers for our routes. We have entities for our models. Hooks, I haven't really used that feature yet. And services, like kind of like services in Angular, to create sort of things you can use across your application. End-to-end testing scripts, if you want to create like command line scripts, that's what this is for. So it allows you to kind of do that. Okay. Well, that's a conversation for another day. Cool, so that's kind of the outline of the controller structure. So let's run that command and make a dog API. full generate register product. Okay, we're going to change that to dog instead of product. Let's go over here and just change this to dog. And then I'll copy it again. And then I'm going to paste it over here. And there, generated all the files. See, that was pretty quick. Okay, so we have a dog entity now. So here it is. Okay, so this dog entity basically says, hey, this thing is an entity. That's what this decorator does. So that way TypeORM knows that. And this dog extends base entity, which is sort of the base class, kind of like extending app model, or what is it called? App, I think it's like app model or something like that in Ruby on Rails. I forget what it's called. I know for like controllers, you're extending app controller, but oh well. Okay, so then this is our primary key, the ID, which is a number. Good. A column, which means a new column, which is going to be of text, which is a type of string, but in this case, I really want to call this name. Okay, and then I just do at column, and then I want to have it be called age, which will also be a number. Okay, and there you go. I have a model for dogs and stuff. Okay, awesome. And then if I go to the controllers, I now have a dog controller, and look, it already has like all the basic routes kind of created. So here's my get, find dogs. Okay, lots of things to validate things, type number, query param. Let's see here, skip, take, status codes. Okay, and then there's our show route. There is our create route. There's our update route and our delete route. Okay, now I do think we need to migrate this first. So let me scroll down before I forget those commands. Yep, we added a new field. Yep, we did all that. Okay, let me just generate and run migrations. That's what I want to do. So it's npm run make migrations and then npm run migrations. Okay. Cool. That's easy enough. npm run make migrations. Okay. And then npm run migrate, which that I like. I remember before you didn't have those scripts, and I remember the commands you'd have to run were a little bit more verbose once upon a time. So that's nice. So let me just read that again. npm run migrations. Okay, migrations. Cool. Okay, so it's run my migrations. And again, if you're not familiar with migrations, essentially what it does is that when you make the migrations, it's reading all those entity files to see what your entities look like. So it's like, oh, dogs have an ID field, a name field, and a text field. So then it knows it has to make these changes to the database. So it creates a migration file that details these are the changes that need to be made to the database based on where they were before. And then when you run those migrations, it actually goes into your database and updates those tables or adds a table based on the migrations you made. Okay, so essentially when you're making migrations, you're comparing the state of your entity files to what they were previously, and then when you run migrations, you're making those updates to the database. If you ever use Django, Ruby on Rails, pretty much any batteries included framework, or used any ORM for an SQL database, you've ran into this kind of pattern before. Let's see, that was pretty straightforward. Okay, now I think, let me just see here. Actually, let me go to see the controller is registered. Okay, yep, and the controller is already registered too. That's pretty sweet. So yeah, it should be ready to go. npm run develop is to run the dev server. So let's run that. And first, I should just get an empty array if I go to localhost 3001/dogs. Do I get an empty array? And I do. Okay, because I haven't added any dogs yet. So yeah, this looks like it's working just fine already. That's pretty good. Okay, let me open up Postman. I'll go grab it over here. Okay, open up a new tab. I need those other tabs. Localhost. Nope, that's not where I type that. Localhost /dogs. Again, get request. Let's add a dog. So let's do a post with the body. We'll make it JSON. And we just need to put the information for a new dog. So name, rough, age 5. So let's see here. Does this add? Required. Okay, looks like I got an error of some sort. Required params text. Okay, I guess it didn't update the database quite right because it's still expecting the text property. Or actually, maybe that's in the validation in the model. So let me just take a look at the entity, not the entity, but the controller. So post, here we go, create dog, validate body. Okay, so that's fine. So let me take a look at see how my migration is generated. Drop table user. Okay, yeah. Name, age. So where's the valid requirement of text coming in? App entities. Let's look at the dog entity. Yeah, name, age, dog user, user.entity. I'm not using that right now. So it's got to be the dog controller. Post, create dog, create a new dog, description, invalid dog, returns a dog, validate body, dog schema. Yeah, let's just run those migrations again. npm run migrations. Let me just also make migrations again in case there's anything I missed. No change in the schema before found. Yeah, so it's kind of odd that it was requiring text. Okay, npm run develop. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, it's still wanting a text property. So let's just add it just for the sake of moving forward. Text cheese. I'll look into why that was required later, but not going to worry about it right now. I could always just remove that validate body decorator. Query failed error. Okay, so far. Well, let's go to preview. Failed error still. Dog.name. But we gave it a name, so why not? Okay. Let's see here. Wait, get repository.save, context.request.body. Let's update this a little bit. Let's console.log context.request.body out of curiosity. And let's just remove the validate body piece. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I think that should restart automatically anyways. So I'm going to remove text cheese. So that way I don't have to have that there. Let's just see what we get. Okay, good. So that time it made it. Okay. And I just have to kind of investigate why that still required the text when I do keep the validate body, but not too worried about that. But yeah, validate name rough age 5. Good. That created the thing. Let me see what happens if I add that text property back again. Is it just the absence of the inclusion of the extra property that's causing the error? That time included the text property. Now if I go back to get, what do I get back? Okay, that makes sense. I should only get back the stuff that matches the schema. I have 2 dogs, ID 1, ID 2, so they are added to the database, so that's good. So let's see here. Let's go back to dog entity, dog. Well, this is not the dog schema. Where is the dog schema coming from? Because that was what it's comparing, and that is what's causing the issue. So let's look that up. Dog schema. Ah, here we go. So we have to edit this. Make sure that this matches the class. Okay, additional properties, false properties, text type string. So we'd have to update this to match the class. That would be what would be the issue with the validation. Otherwise, yeah, that was pretty straightforward, right? We created literally with 2 commands, and you had the API up and running, and just some minor editing to add the properties you wanted. But yeah, so you can create it nowadays with FOALTS. You can create an API pretty much as quick as you could with Ruby on Rails and have a very Ruby on Rails feel, but in your Node environment with the benefits of TypeScript. Very cool. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Again, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go join the Slack and Discord community over there at devnursery.com. Have a great day and enjoy.